Oh hey, well you just caught me setting up for the holiday special episode. You think every scene in the book should move the plot forward? Okay, no. We gotta talk about this. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Deciphering Writing Advice, where today we're going to be tackling the piece of advice that every scene should move the plot forward. We're going to talk about what that means when it's not a pithy little line, or at least my interpretation of what it means, what I think it should mean, and why it's important to bear in mind your overarching novel pacing, not scene pacing, novel pacing, when considering whether to cut a scene or not. I will also be talking about my NaNoWriMo project at the end. Every scene should move the plot forward. It's often followed by the "so if it doesn't, cut it." And this is why I wanted to get this out before NaNoWriMo happens, because I think that when that's leached into your mind a little, you kind of get stuck on the format of thinking that you're not even allowed to write those scenes, and that's two separate things to debunk, but you're allowed to write whatever scene you want. It's not a waste of time to write whatever scene you want. If it's a character enhancement scene, if it's a character backstory scene, if it's a scene that you know logistically would never make it into the novel, because it's from a different perspective, or you know that the writing's just not up to scratch, or whatever the reason, you can still write it, because it will enhance your knowledge and understanding of what's going on in the novel. And you never know, you might discover some really interesting things. You might realise that actually this is something that needs to be told, and even if not that, you'll probably end up with some marketing materials if that's something that you're into, or something special for people who've signed up to your Patreon or your mailing list or whatever. Just a neat segue into, if you do sign up for my mailing list before Wednesday, it's a random day of the month this time, you will get the chance to have 2 entries into my Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse book birthday giveaway. So Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse has been out for a year on Wednesday, and I am running a giveaway where you can either win a signed copy of the novel itself or a signed Guardian Cadet mug. This is my Guardian Colonel mug, but it's essentially the same thing except it says Cadet and it's not green. If you don't want to sign up to my mailing list, you can still enter, you just get less entries for it. Anyway, the overarching pacing of your novel should, in my humble opinion, give your readers the opportunity to breathe and process the thoughts that they have about the book. It should have in it optimum times for your reader to do things like, if they're a sit down and read the whole thing in one sitting kind of reader, to get up and go to the bathroom or have lunch or whatever. It should include pieces of downtime for your reader where the stakes aren't so high. And there's 2 main reasons for this. Reason number 1 is it's a nicer experience. Like, it lets you do things like go to the bathroom or put the book down. And I know none of us want to put the book down, and none of us want readers to put the book down. But if you think about things realistically, they're gonna do that at some point. Hi, Focus. Hi, Beckle. I know none of us wants our readers to put the book down, but ultimately we have to be realistic about these things. At some point your reader is going to put the book down. At some point they are going to have to go to work, eat lunch, go to the bathroom, sleep. Whatever it happens to be that's going to be interrupting your reader's attempt at reading the book, there is going to be something at some point. Most people don't sit down and read a book in one fell swoop without at least going to the bathroom halfway through. Your average fantasy novel takes anywhere between 8 and 100 hours. 8 and 10 hours to read. Quintessential dyslexic moment. Between 8 and 10 hours to read. Longer if it's more than 100,000 words. And, you know, usually people can't sit for that long. My point is, giving your readers the opportunity to do that is a really beneficial thing. It allows them to step away from the novel for a minute, and it allows it to be more potent and more valuable. But even if they are going to sit down and read it all in one sitting, the second reason that it's important to give your readers downtime within the universe of the novel is because you can't remain elevated for a very long time. If you've ever been in a stressful situation, a long-term stressful situation more specifically, which I think we kind of all have now, pandemics, but if you've ever been in a long-term stressful situation, you start out really elevated, really stressed out, everything is hard, and then after a while your body gets used to the fact that you're at this level of stress, and it sort of makes this level of stress feel normal. At some point you are going to reach your limit, and a lot of the time for readers, if they reach their limit, that's not a like, oh, this book's so great, that's a toss the book across the room, I'm never reading that shit again kind of situation. Editing Will here, just wanted to jump in and say that even if they don't reach their limit, even if your readers never quite reach that limit of toss the book across the room, I'm not reading that shit anymore, they will become numb eventually to the stress that you are putting them under. If you never give them a chance to have downtime, they will just get used to the stress and it won't seem so stressful anymore. If your character is constantly in a life-threatening situation, that life-threatening situation becomes the mundane, and that is a huge problem. That is a huge part of why you need to do downtime, and I realised I didn't say it in the video, but it is important to put out there. So yeah, thank you for your time. Editing Will out. And by inviting downtime into your reader's experience of the world, of the story you have put forth, you allow them room to breathe. And by allowing them room to breathe, you let them come back down from this stressful situation, or process how stressful the situation is in your novel. It's like the beach episode of an anime, or the Halloween episode, or the Christmas episode, or whatever. These are usually stock episodes. These episodes don't serve to enhance the plot most of the time. They don't forward it, they don't make it, like, they don't fight anyone big and brave usually at the beach. They don't jump for their plot arcs. But you know what's actually a really great example of this? Is Avatar The Last Airbender. They have a beach episode in Avatar The Last Airbender, and it does not enhance the plot. Nobody's doing any plot things throughout the entirety of that episode. The Avatar's not running, he's not learning any new bending techniques. The parallel storyline with Zuko is, he's not doing anything to further him, like to logically further him towards the goals of reclaiming his honor and finding the Avatar and all of that jazz that he's supposed to be doing. And you see these two parallel storylines happening. They're both on a beach episode. They're both on the same beach, but that's not important. And none of it seems to further the plot. But you come out of that episode with so much more information about the characters. It's such a character building experience. And I think the fact that every scene should move the plot forward piece of advice has got so widespread, we are missing out on these key character development moments. And if we don't have those, we don't feel as strongly connected to the characters. So not only do you need it for downtime, it is an excellent opportunity to further explore your characters, to let them... to let them exist within the world you've created. It's a great world building opportunity as well, because it shows your reader what your characters would do during downtime. And obviously that's potentially less relevant in a contemporary novel, but it's still, you know, potentially relevant because it still teaches your readers what your characters do during their downtime. I don't tend to write that much by way of contemporary, so I'm more talking about sci-fi and fantasy. It really invites people into the world that you've built. Like, in my sci-fi novel that I'm doing the sequel for NaNoWriMo, check out my works in progress video if you're interested. This one. In this, there is a scene for almost every single member of the cast, almost every single member of the cast not being able to sleep. And these moments do not further the plot. The plot is they're trying to get their deep space. The plot is they're trying to get their deep space travel license. It's fun, I promise. Check out my work in progress video if you want to know more about it. And These can't sleep scenes, they don't further the plot. Nobody finds a job, a cargo running job, that's the thing that they're looking for, during these sleepy scenes. No one gets further along their deep space travel assessment thing during these sleepy scenes. It's just people building relationships with one another and exploring what it means to them to not be able to sleep, and enhancing the character dynamics both individually and on a wider scale, and enhancing the world building, because it shows you that actually it's not that some of these characters just have insomnia, it's that when you are floating on a ship in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of space, you don't have a day-night cycle, so you're probably going to have moments where you just can't sleep, and that's kind of normal. So I think if you are going to go forward and tell people this piece of advice, I think it's worth saying things like every scene in a book should move the story forward, because I don't think that story and plot necessarily correlate so exactly that you can use them interchangeably.
Editing will, again, because I realised that I explained this in a different version of this video that has not gone live. So I think that story is essentially everything that happens in the course of the novel. That includes all of the character building scenes, all of the what we might entitle as filler scenes, everything. Whereas plot, typically, not just to me but to other writers I know, means the main plot, the overarching main plot points, not including necessarily subplots or romantic plots or other such similar things. That's what I mean by you can't really use them interchangeably, even though I know a lot of people who are not writers would do that, because to them there is no distinction necessary because they don't need the nuance of knowing the difference.
But I also think if you are worrying about this, if you've written a lot of scenes and you're worried that actually there's not enough plot heavy scenes, there's too many, if I said filler episode scenes, the beach episodes, the character enhancement scenes, well, then you have two main options. One, I think you should macroscope your story for either, but one is to macroscope your story, to look at it, to lay it out as this is a plot building scene, this is a character building scene, this is a plot building scene, this is a character building scene, and so on and so forth, and just see what your ratios are. Most scenes should move the plot forward. Your downtime scenes should not be coming during the climax of the novel. You need some vague idea of what story structure looks like to be able to manage this well, but that comes with experience and practice. I think also if there's a book that you are taking a lot of inspiration from, no shade, no shame, it's a good plan. Try mapping out what scenes in that are character heavy scenes and plot heavy scenes, and which ones are intermingled between the two, because a lot of them are. Use that as your basis, your comparative thing. Think about whether there's any scenes that drag in that novel, bits that you're thinking, God, can we just get back to the plot already? That's what this advice is for. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, looking at it very objectively, you can start making decisions, very far distance gazing at it. You can start making decisions about whether you think that this scene enhances the story and the characters and the world enough for it to still be included. In Mary Arlan Breaking the Curse, I originally had a scene where, towards the end of the novel, like post-climax, where all of the friends that Mary's made throughout the novel are sitting around a big table in a cafe and having a chat about like what has happened and what happens next. And it was a really lovely scene, it was really nice. Unfortunately, there was another scene very, very close to it that was essentially the same thing, but it was just Mary and her love interest. And it was more potent, and it was more poignant, and it meant more. And it built better for the second novel, so I cut the first one. As much as I loved it, it just didn't have a place in the story. And that's okay. It wasn't the right filler episode. It was the kind of filler episode where the anime has got caught up with the manga and now they have to wait for more manga episodes to come out before they can start making the next pieces of story appear in the anime, because if they don't do that, hey, guess what? That's what happens when you do Full Metal Alchemist, the original anime series. goes off who even knows where, not according to the story, and you're sort of looking at it going, well, that's a choice for sure. The second thing that you can do once you've taken a macroscope and actually seen how much of your story, how much of your story is plot heavy and how much is character heavy, is you are allowed to write character focused narratives. Just advertise it as such. Tell people that it's character focused rather than plot focused, because there are people out there who are actively seeking character focused novels. So you'll be able to find someone who likes what you've written in all probability. There will be people out there, you just have to advertise it in the right way and to the right people. So that's pretty much what I have to say on that. As I said, I'm going to be writing a sequel to this for NaNoWriMo. This is my sci-fi novel that I talk about in my works in progress video. So the sequel is going to be following one of the people that appears in this, one of the side characters in this one, and it's going to be following her essentially trying to find her home again, because she's woken up out of stasis. It's not really a spoiler. And she's going to be doing it on a station, space station, which is the same setting as my new Captain story from a couple of years ago, so I'll be revamping that as part of the novel, which I know is sort of technically a little bit rebellious for NaNoWriMo. I might not do it for NaNoWriMo itself, I might try and do that just before, like on the cusp. NaNoWriMo Eve, if you will. I'll try and revamp that story and then it won't count towards my word count, but who knows, because I am a rebel. So yeah, we have 4 perspectives for this novel so far. Possibly a 5th one that comes in intermittently to continue the format of these novels where someone from the next book appears and has perspectives in the previous book, so you can get to know them and decide if you like them, because as much as it does have an overarching story with the entire series, probably won't matter that much if you read them, every single one of them in order. So like, if you decided you hated this character, you wouldn't have to read this book. I hope you don't hate her, I like her. But yeah, I was gonna have a whole plan about like building these characters beforehand and trying to make a repeat of what happened in 2020 when I had the best NaNoWriMo year I'd ever had. But life happens and I didn't do that, so talk to me about what you think about pacing, talk to me about your own NaNoWriMo project. Feel free to befriend me on the NaNoWriMo site. I am, shockingly enough, Nopoodles there as well. If you want to find me and my book, Arlan Breaking the Curse, all over the internet, including signing up to my mailing list to get 2 entries to my giveaway, or just signing up for the giveaway, all of the links you need are in the description box below, right next to the like and subscribe buttons if you feel like sticking around. And of course, if you want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, you absolutely can. The link is in the description box for that too. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye. You want your laptop?
Are you filming?
Yeah?